faith and by grace that we are saved. As Christians, we can have confidence in knowing that our faith is placed in a secure foundation. We can know the Bible is trustworthy and what it says is true, and not because we take some big leap in logic, but because we trust the one who said it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for our friends from the Secular Student Alliance and our Crosspoint friends. The opportunity we have now is for you guys to ask focused questions to either group or perhaps to both groups in the spirit of seeking more information and kind of exploring their thoughts a little bit deeper. And so this is a pretty large group, so I'm going to do my best to shuffle around and get you all a microphone if you need one. But if you please raise your hand if there's something that you would like to address to either of the groups up front. Let's do this.
My name's Callie, and I'm actually a Christian. And I just wanted to ask the Christian group to explain, because I know a lot of people as a Christian look at a lot of people who claim to be true Christians and they say, if that's a Christian, I don't want to be a Christian. Or if that's what Christianity is all about, then it's a lie. How would you explain how that, not to look at the Christian, but Christ himself?
Can you hear me? Okay. Hey, thanks for that question. That's a really great question. Also, do y'all want me to stand up, or is it okay if I stand up? Okay. Hey. Yeah, that's a really great question. Okay. Because I think it's important that if we are going to hold to a doctrine that claims to know what's true, then there should obviously be life change that comes out of that. I would say that we see, it comes back to really what the gospel is saying, that man was created and that we chose to rebel. And so we see that in the very beginning. And then we see that even those of us who choose to believe and who are Christians, we still battle sinful tendencies. We are still not perfect. There's a great passage in Romans where Paul's talking about how he knows in his soul what he wants to do. But his flesh doesn't do it. And so I think to an extent, everyone who's a Christian is a hypocrite because we aren't going to be completely perfect. But by the grace of God, we are being sanctified, which is basically just means that God is conforming us more to his image every day. And so I think that to those people who claim that Christians are just, a bunch of hypocrites, we are, and we're sorry, but by God's grace, he has saved us, and it's not because of anything that we do. So,
if I could add to that real quick, I think there's a quote. It says, you should never judge a philosophy by its abuses. And just thinking about that and looking at the life of Jesus as someone who actually represents what Christianity really should be. My apologies. It's, there's so many times we do fall short, and it's not okay. But it just points back to the need that we are in need of a Savior, and where we fail, Jesus succeeded, and he paid our penalty.
Thank you very much. So we're short, like one microphone. So if you need me to help you project from the back, I'm more than happy to do that. So yeah, please share with us and try to be very loudly as you can.
Okay.
Please stand up.
Okay. I'm Joel, and I'm a mathematics student. Anyways, I'll ask the Christian group. This is sort of a several-part question. So, regarding God, supposedly according to the Bible, God is all good. He's perfect. Then how do you justify some things he does, like with Noah's Ark flooding, the world with Sodom and Gomorrah, turning someone to salt? These things he does that seem evil. How do you, killing people just because they disagree with him? How is that right? And furthermore, sending people to hell. Okay, why would he do that just because they don't believe? When many people are not going to be presented with the right evidence, or many people using logic and evidence and everything will come to other conclusions. How is that right? I don't see the purpose, because punishment, I mean, what would there be, say prison, what would the purpose be? Well, you might want to keep someone there to protect people from them. Hell is not protecting, it's not like people that don't believe are going to hurt everyone and putting them in hell, it will protect us from them. It's not like hell, if it was, sort of like a correctional thing about getting people to change their ways, well, you're never going to leave hell. So it definitely can't achieve that purpose. Because, you're not going to get out, so it doesn't achieve the purpose. So why is there a hell? And many people, they want to say it's just the separation from God, or, it's there naturally, and you just, well, if God has complete control over everything, then it's totally up to Him. So you
All right, if you'll pardon me, I'm going to walk around a little bit, see if I can find the spot with the least feedback here. But thank you for that question. I guess kind of at the root of this question is, why does God send people to hell? And we've got this idea of hell as this place of terrible suffering, and it's a place of eternal separation from God. And obviously, nobody wants to be there. That's not the place that any of us desire to go on any vacation anytime soon. But as for the reason that God sends people to hell, let's take a step back and let's examine the nature of God here. The God of the Bible that we are speaking of, from our perspective, is perfectly holy, perfectly just, perfectly loving. You might say, okay, that doesn't sound very loving. But in order for God to be just, there must be a punishment for wrongdoing. God, in His love, in His mercy, in His graciousness, has offered a way to escape that punishment through Jesus Christ. It says in the Bible, in I believe it's 2 Peter, that God does not want anyone to perish. Hell was not designed as a punishment for Christians, punishment for those who are not Christians was not designed as a place to judge you for things that that you've screwed up in your life. But God, being completely holy, cannot be in the presence of sin. And as you said, a separation. There by necessity, there must be a place where there's sin can be separate from God. But to get much better. To get back to the original question here, we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. The perspective we're looking at it is, why does God judge anyone? God is perfect and holy. He doesn't need anything from us. He has no reason to make Him better, to save us or anything. So really, we have all missed the mark. We have all missed the mark of perfection, which is the mark of God. And we have all fallen short. I've fallen short. I screw up all the time. And it's not about, how good you can be, how Mother Teresa-like you can be, because the best person in the world is still going to fall short of that perfection of God. And so a better question to ask might be, why does God save anyone? God has no benefit by having, us humans, in heaven, around Him. There's nothing that we can offer to God, is what I'm trying to say. So, I suppose I would end with saying, think of it as how miraculous it is that God, in His love, has made a way for anyone to be saved, and has made a way for us to come to this union with God. And as I said before, He does not desire for anyone to perish. He does desire that everyone will come to Him.
Thank you very much.
To address some more of that question, one of the tough issues is thinking about why would God send somebody to hell forever. Just comprehending forever is tough for all of us, but I think operating on a Christian worldview, humans have souls, which we believe last eternally, and God is an infinite God. And the Puritan minister Jonathan Edwards thought of this. He was wrestling with this issue, and he said that even though on earth it seems like it's finite, it's all in, but we're sinning against an infinite God who is eternal, and then we are also eternal, so that was his justification for eternal punishment. And when you think about it, even in hell, it's not like we all of a sudden switch sides and are pleasing God. We're still sinning against God, even in hell. I think a good illustration from the Bible on the issue of suffering is in the book of Job. Job, there's nothing in the book that tells us Job was a bad guy. He seems like a good, righteous guy. And yet God sends all this suffering to Job. And Job questions God. He's like, why are you doing this to me? And God's response is, do you know who I am? Do you know the power I have, what I've done? And he basically, at the end of this story of Job ends up getting twice as much as he had before at the beginning, after he had lost his possessions and all he owned. And that's just an illustration saying God has the big story in mind when we can only see our short portion of human history and we don't know the full narrative.
Thank you all very much. We'd love to hear more questions from the audience. I feel like this gentleman here, you have your hand up a minute ago.
Yeah, so I just had a point. I think a comment Elizabeth made about saying that Christians are hypocrites. I'd actually disagree with that because the reason why you can say Christians are not hypocrites is because I would say as a Christian we intend to do the right thing, but we fall short. In that sense, I wouldn't call yourself a hypocrite, okay? Because someone who intends to do someone who does wrongdoing and has no intention of doing the right thing, but yet they say they intend on doing the right thing, that's a hypocrite. So I just wanted to quick correction there. So a question towards the secular society is if you compare the God of the Bible to Zeus, in order to do that, you must reject the Bible as a historical text. So what are your circumstances for rejecting the Bible as a historical text? I guess what that means is there's not a similar story that is related to Zeus.
Alright, got it. So the question is, why do we reject the Bible, or why do we not view the Bible as a historical document?